The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, spent their second day in Nigeria engaging in some sporting activities with wounded Nigerian soldiers and attended a reception in honor of military families. Arise News correspondent Ferdinand Duruoha reports.
Nigeria's Unconquered participated at the last edition of the Invictus Games in Düsseldorf, Germany in 2023, and the Prince's visit is an opportunity to reconnect with the Nigerian team. Harry is the founder of the Invictus Games, a competition which seeks to help wounded veterans and service members recover mentally and physically by competing in sports events similar to the Paralympics. A novelty volleyball match between Team Harry and Team Chief of Defense Staff ended with the CDS's team edging the encounter.
The Duke of Sussex and the Duchess for them to come down all the way to come here and celebrate with those of our veterans that are injured is a great privilege, is a great honor, and it shows that people all over the world understand what it is to sacrifice for one's nation. And these guys are our heroes as you see them here standing by. They've given everything they have just to make sure that Nigeria remains one. And that's the call we have for all Nigerians. You can see if somebody can give out his limb, his life, for the sake of Nigeria, it means every Nigerian has a role to play. It is a partnership for progress.
The next phase saw the Duke and Duchess hosted to a reception in honor of military families. Here, some wounded soldiers speak on their injuries and recovery through the Invictus project.
I'm being inspired by Prince Harry and Meghan, by his vision of Invictus Games, because I now have a purpose in life. Then I now see the ability in my disability, and I see that there is nothing I can do if I wish to do so. That the most important thing is the mindset of the soldier, which means that we are Invictus, which means we are undefeatable.
The Chief of Defense Staff has unveiled plans to build a rehabilitation center for injured service members to enable them to embrace sports.
Today, I want to reiterate the unwavering commitment of the Nigerian government to the well-being of our wounded and injured soldiers. We are dedicated to the recovery and rehabilitation. In this pursuit, we are eager to collaborate closely with the Invictus Game Foundation to extend this vision.
The message from the Prince is that sports is a unifying tool that can bring physical and mental healing.
When I think back to the past 10 years and think about the different Invictus Games that have been run in countries all over the world, there are some significant moments that stand out in my mind. Beginning in the United Kingdom with the UK and USA wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby. And then in Germany, when we were gifted with the presence of Team Nigeria, who danced on stage better than anybody else.
A recurrent theme in the visits of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex is using sports to preach peace and healing, especially for injured service members. Ferdinand Duruoha, Arise News.
Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle are expected here in Lagos later today in continuation of their 3-day visit to the country on the invitation of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. Well, Arise security and defense correspondent Ferdinand Duruoha has covered every bit of the British royal couple's itinerary, especially in Abuja, the nation's capital. He joins us now to have a quick conversation. Good morning, Ferdinand.
Yeah, good morning to you guys.
All right, Ferdinand, we know that the royals are here, especially Prince Harry, who is here to promote his Invictus Games. That is that Paralympic-style competition for wounded service members, which he founded in 2014. He marked the 10th anniversary of the Games during his visit to London, and that was just before the royals arrived in Nigeria. We know that Harry was a former army captain who served as a helicopter pilot in Afghanistan. And since then, he's been, he's been promoting rehabilitation of wounded soldiers through sports. Now, tell us about your experience at the training session yesterday. We understand that it is in collaboration with Nigeria Unconquered, a non-profit organization that is affiliated with the Invictus Games. Tell us about your experience, with Team Harry and Team CDS. We know that Team Harry won. Tell us about that.
Well, the reverse it is. It was the team CDS that did win that particular one.
Oh, right.
But talking about the Royals, they have pursued the visits along three major themes. Now, we are talking about sports and wellness. We are talking about health and education, and then also culture. Well, as regards sports and wellness, well, like he talked about, well, he's decided within Victor's project, well, during his time in Afghanistan, he did 2 tours, by the way. Well, he said he saw some of his colleagues got injured, and then, things they wanted to do, things they did every day, they couldn't do them anymore. And that's exactly the reason why he went on to, establish that project Invictus, which gives sportsmen and women the opportunity to at least compete, especially for most of them who indeed love sports very, very well. I'm talking about servicemen and women. And so it's been a form of rehabilitation. It's been a form for them, rehabilitation, both physically and mental health-wise. Well, like we did see some of them speak yesterday during the reception, hosted by the CDS. And then also, well, in this first day, well, we also saw him visit a school and where they had a mental health summit. And then when you talk about culture, yes, she's one of us, talking about Princess Meghan, 43% Nigerian, and she wants to learn more about Africa, more about Nigeria, her culture. And a lot of us have been asking, well, is she Igbo? Is she Yoruba? And she's doing a whole lot of that during, this particular trip. So it's been it's been quite an interesting time for the Royals thus far.
All right, Ferdinand, talk to us about what to expect of the Royals when they come to Lagos later today. Do we have a clear-cut itinerary of what their timing will be in Lagos? And then also speak to us about the financial implications of this beautiful jamboree, which I believe is being funded by the Nigerian Army, the office of the CDS. I'm aware that, as you've said earlier, that there's another organization that is also collaborating with the CDS and bringing them to Nigeria on a 3-day visit. But do we have any information about how much this is costing the taxpayers of Nigeria? And lastly, the British Embassy in Nigeria appears not to be involved at all in all this. Is it strictly a Nigerian affair with, the royals? And will you think that this speaks to Harry being, how shall I put it, being something of a defiant and anti-establishment? Would that be the reason?
Well, let's first of all start with what we know. Well, what we know is the fact that it's not a state visit. It is a private visit of the prince and his wife, Meghan, who are the Duke and the Duchess of Success. And be that as it may, well, it is well documented, just like at the British Embassy said, well, they really have nothing to do with this. But then the invitation was extended by the Chief of Defense Staff. Let's not forget, Nigeria participated in the Invictus Games for the first time last year in Düsseldorf. And that was also the first time that an African contingent was indeed participating in the games. And then you want to link this with the fact that, Nigeria, we've had over 14 years of war insurgency. And so we've seen lots of service persons being injured in the line of duty. And so for the Chief of Defense Staff, this is an opportunity for them to participate. Now, for some of them, we've listened to some of their tales. It hasn't been the best of them. And that's exactly the reason why Nigeria have embraced this Invictus Games. And through the Invictus Games right now, the country is talking about setting a mental health center. And, it's quite disappointing that, we do not have one. I remember the last wife of the last chairperson of Duruoha trying to set up, a mental health center, and then the president's wife said the project was going to be constructed by the federal government, but that hasn't happened up until now. And so thus far, already the CDS is saying, well, from here we're going to take it up. We're going to construct a rehabilitation center and make sure that we have servicemen and women, give them the opportunity where they can come in, where they can train, where they can embrace sports. Now that's just on one side. Now, it is an invitation extended by the CDA, so I want to believe that, yes, traditionally, when you invite someone, well, you do well to make the person very comfortable, and that's exactly what they have done in terms of security-wise, and then also in terms of, some of the other logistics. Well, they have not, the office of the CDS have not put out a figure for us to say, well, this is what this amount, or this is what this amount, but there's indeed plenty of interest, and that's exactly the reason why they are trying to maximize the opportunities that comes from this. They're doing sports, they are doing health and wellness. They are also, yesterday we also saw her in that summit, to indeed promote women activities also in Nigeria. So all in all, however, you are very, very correct. Well, lots of people have been asking, what is the financial implications of this, especially the fact that it is not a state visit? Well, just to confirm that, we've not seen him go to the villa that is just a couple of kilometers away from where he has stayed while he was in Abuja. And rather, we've seen him visit some of this, we've seen him visit one state governor. Well, we assume that, there's a schedule for him to visit the Lagos state governor later today. But he was in Kaduna yesterday on Friday, when he visited the Nigerian Army Reference Hospital, where, wounded servicemen are treated and rehabilitated. And he met with the governor of Kaduna State. Well, that's as much as we know in terms of the state connection. Well, for other purposes, the military wants to maximize this, wants to ensure that, yes, servicemen and women use this opportunity of the Invictus Games to get better physically and mentally.
Thank you. What would you say is the significance of the morale standing in the military right now? Yesterday it was reported that in the last 5 months, I believe, around 80 or so servicemen have been killed or injured in action. So do you think that this does a lot for the morale of Nigeria's servicemen? And also, have you heard any stories or any particular stories that have stayed with you as the Sussexes have been going around Abuja?
Well, yes, in terms of morale, let me quote the CDS yesterday. He says some of the soldiers have given limbs, some of them have given hands, well, some of them have sacrificed some of their body parts. And this is an opportunity for other service persons to take a look at these persons and say, well, their lives are not finished. Well, for these persons, well, some of them have been, provided with prosthetics. Well, some of them have also been helped one way or the other. So it's just a morale boosting exercise for the CDS, like he has said. It's just a morale boosting exercise. He wants others to take a look at those who have been injured in the last 10, 12 years of the war against insurgency and say, well, they are not finished. If they can be useful, if they can do something with their lives outside the normal routine of service persons, well, there is also a life, after, God forbid, anything happens. And then talking about stories, yes, I have been with the Nigerian Unconquered team, and I've listened to some very interesting stories. I remember, the story of, I think it was Ifoma who talked about getting injured in 2012, and since then, she's gone on to indeed get a PhD and, talking about building some mental capacity. Well, also in the, in that package, video package that you just saw, that was Peacemaker Azobulam, one of those who won medals for Nigeria. 2 medals we did win at the last Invictus Games, talking about the fact that, yes, he lost a limb when he was, when him and his colleagues were ambushed in the northeast, Gamboa to be precise, and he embraced Invictus Sports, and since then he's been able to find a purpose for himself. He can move around. He can do some of the things that he wanted to, that he always dreamt of doing. And, he's not just knocked off just because of the injuries. So there's been lots and lots of tales. However, just like Steve pointed out, it's of note that lots of people have really look forward to us maximizing these visits in terms of whatever opportunities it brings. Well, let me also say something by the side that the prince and the princess also, that the duke and the duchess also, I beg your pardon, have also done well to maximize this for themselves. Well, from what we see, we see some extra cameras. It seems they're doing something sort of a documentary, and of course we know that that's indeed one major source of interest for them in the last couple of years, writing books, writing memos, writing, doing documentaries. And we see those documentaries, and sometimes, some of their people have had to tell our people, oh, come on, can you bring your cameras down? This isn't supposed to be for public consumption. And we're like, what? How? Come on, let's get on with business. And so, just like we've pointed out, everybody is trying to maximize the opportunities from this visit. We're looking forward to that mental health center. We're looking forward to that rehabilitation centers. It is quite embarrassing. It is quite disgraceful that the military up until now have struggled to take care of its service members, in case of the unfortunate incident. But if we say this is exactly what we're looking forward to, if we say this is exactly our plan, then we should begin to do everything possible to get that on the road as soon as possible.
Yeah, trust me, Ferdinand, I will actually be looking forward to that documentary that the royals are putting together, and of course we'll spot their visit to Nigeria. Now, speaking about mental health, we understand that their visit to that school on Friday was also, some sort of mental health summit run by a non-profit organization, GIANCO, which is affiliated with their actual foundation. It was beautiful to see the children, dance with them. Talk to us about that particular event.
Oh, yes, it was quite interesting. Well, that was the first major event they did have. Well, after that, they then went on to the DHQ. And it was interesting to see the children receive the Duke and the Duchess. And it was also interesting to see the connection with them. And just like we have underlined, well, this is something that they've been doing for a while, trying to connect, trying to use their pet projects to indeed affect the world. And so it was a fitting space for them. And they quickly went into characters and definitely, every way they can, try to reach out to the children and make them believe that, yes, it is possible to indeed, have mental challenges even at this point. Well, I remember the prince saying, if you see your colleague sitting close to you and they're not looking well, check on him, check on her. If you see your desk mate crying, ask her what the problem is. And these are advice that, trust me, these kids will need. We've all been schools. We've all seen some kids come into school looking disorganized, and if you do not ask questions, you might not know what that kid is going through. And then also, talking about culture, well, everywhere they've been, the Nigerian hosts have ensured that they have an opportunity of learning. Well, we've seen different traditional displays across the country, and maybe that will help Meghan fit in properly for, since she wanted to learn a whole lot about culture. And altogether, well, that was an attempt to communicate with kids. Well, that was an attempt to get, the visit up, in the right way. And I think they did strike a note with that. Well, still talking about the cameras also. Well, we still had, we also had issues then concerning, what to get, what not to get. But I think along the line, we started establishing the lines, and then we started understanding exactly what the whole purpose of it is all about, and then what everybody wants to achieve. But definitely mental health, a major theme, like I pointed out earlier, in their visit. So they've done well. They struck the chords with the kids. The kids were, lots of them were happy. And then also, from what we learned, was some of the kids, were kids who were brought in from some insurgency-ravaged centers from the northeast, and then they had an opportunity of coming in. And that's exactly one of the reasons why they actually selected, to visit that school. Well, coming in to indeed continue their education from troubled areas. So I think it was a good one. They did start off on a right note, and the impact, we've seen actually reverberate all through the project. They've been talking about mental health. They've been talking about using sports to preach peace, to preach wellness, and then also culture, a very strong part of the team.
All right, Ferdinand, just a quick one before we let you go. I see that the royals have been receiving gifts, on their visit. Would you know if they got anything of significance from the CDS? I'm asking you because of the curious gift that they got in Kaduna from Governor Ubasani, who gifted, Harry with a Babanriga, understandably, and then curiously, a picture frame of Princess Diana, his mother, with him when he was 6 years old. And a lot of people are wondering, how is it in the governor's place for him to be the one to give him such a thing? We would have thought that there would be something symbolic, representative of the culture or the history of Kaduna that he will give to the royals. But hey, he was presenting him with a picture of his mother. What are your thoughts on this, Ferdinand?
Well, that did definitely strike a note. Well, they tried to make some connection with the fact that, was it how many years ago, 40 years ago or thereabouts, that the royals did visit Kaduna, and maybe that was the connection, but obviously it just didn't go well as regards, impact like we all, have, would wish. Now, yesterday, I can confirm to you that there were lots of gifts, especially for Meghan. The chairperson of the Nigeria in diaspora, Abike Dabiri, and together with the chairperson of Duruoha, that's the wife of the Chief of Defense Staff, I think they did do a good job of putting together some very, very fine Nigerian attires. Well, she didn't get to try any of them on, unlike we did see of the prince. But as regards what we can see physically, I think it was a good one. Giving her attires across, the three major tribes in Nigeria, which I'm very, very sure that she's possibly going to wear sometime. That she gets to wants to feel Nigerian, like she says. And for the prince, well, he was given a souvenir. I couldn't really see exactly what it was, but it was a gold plate. It was a gold plate, a souvenir. And but that's as much as we know in terms of gifts that have been given to them. Well, they will be in Lagos today, and it's a long lineup. We hear of Apollo Sports that's going to happen. I think they say it's for kids. And then also he's going to meet with the governor and one or two chit-chats. And I'm sure that Lagos, that prides itself with its hospitality nature, will also be handing out some gifts.
Definitely.
Well, let's hope
we're definitely
it makes the right connection for everyone.
We're definitely looking forward to having the royals here. I believe even yesterday Meghan Markle was wearing Oriro Official, which is a Nigerian brand, showing that she's tapping into her roots even beyond the gifts that she's been given. Thank you so much, Ferdinand.